Okay, I thought I'd give an update on where this little experiment with Claude Code is going. So just on a word count, we're up to about 19,000 non-empty lines of source code. So including comments, which I think is fair enough because the comments it puts in are actually kind of pretty useful. So I'm going to run it. Okay. So we got lots of changes. I'm not sure we're going to be able to remember them all. So you can fly around. So the terrain has changed. So we got kind of multi-texture splatting for the terrain. We got skyboxes. We got our menu system from before. Just let up another scenery. So we have this is the trading field at the moment. It's just flat. We've got a training field with buildings here and so on, which actually shows up quite nicely the shadows. So now we have cascading shadow maps, and they're working kind of really well. As slight artifacts, but not very much. It's really useful for seeing the proximity of the plane to the ground and so on. Another scenery is so we have undulating terrain. So this is procedurally generated Perlin noise. And then it's also got these buildings, which kind of like scattered around. Since we need a place to land, then it kind of procedurally adds in a flat area, which is this sort of landing area here. And then, so when you're in these sceneries, you can then change the skybox dynamically. So here we're on cloudy evening, I think. We change to sunny and so on. Not quite sure why this flat area gets so bright, but never mind. Or you can go for a procedural sky. That's all. Okay, so in the sky, when you're there, and if you start looking at the sun, you get blinded by it, which is pretty fair enough. When you're flying and the sun's low, it's actually really hard to look into the sun. So it's maybe things a little bit more realistic. So we look from the ground. Let's see if we can get it in the sun. Also got a few changes to the auto zoom. Where's the sun gone? It's over. Here we are. Yeah, so you have to be a little bit careful. You still see the plane. Okay, and we got some other aircraft. So so we got this basic trainer here, and there's also a sports plane. Let's show this sport plane, kind of semi-aerobatic. It's got a different configuration of the undercarriage. In addition, now when we look at it, we can see the rendering and so on of the aerofoils is much smoother. Obviously, it's not final rendering, but it's kind of starting to look a little bit nicer. We have a kind of aerofoil shape on the surfaces. We also have the propeller. So the propeller's got a spinner. So as it spins up, it goes and initially spins as an object, but then it blends in this prop disk and so on. Okay, we can look at some. Let's have a look at some debug. Okay. Okay, so we had before we could see the aerodynamic forces, which you can see here. Oops. So we see the aerodynamic forces, and now you can also enable the rendering of the aerofoil data for each section. So you see on the top left, we're looking at the left wing. Okay, so the green line is the coefficient of lift, red line is the coefficient of damping, drag, and the range is from minus 180 to plus 180 degrees. We can toggle that so we can zoom in on the normal flying region. So this goes minus 30 to plus 30. You see the green line, it's no pre-constant slope. It's a symmetric section. And then we kind of get to the stall. It's not quite right, but it's kind of proof of principle. So it was really, really useful having this debug draw. it basically one-shotted the whole debug draw system, which was kind of pretty impressive. You know, I just typed in words what it was I wanted to see, and it just kind of made it, and it just kind of worked. This toggle to it is on a few key bindings, so we can toggle through the wing surfaces, left and right wing, obviously the same. Horizontal stabilizer, the tail, you know, slightly different parameters and so on. And also, in addition, you can see there's that vertical yellow marker. So that's the current angle of attack of the wind. And you can see it's highlighted the green and the red, showing what the current coefficient of lift and the drag values are. This is actually really useful for setting up some of the planes. Let's just disable that. Let's just put it back on the ground, get rid of that one. Okay, so we've also got a bit more debug. So we have now, we can see the collision shapes. Mind the jerkiness as it goes. So actually, the wing is, for example, here is split up into multiple sections, and this was originally splitting up the collision shape into those multiple sections, which is good for calculating the moments of inertia, but it's not so good for actual collision because then we have thin shapes which can penetrate the ground. So Claude and I agreed that we would keep the benefits of the basically the accurate moments of inertia calculation of the mass distribution, but we'd switch using convex holes for the actual collision. So that works well. We can also whoops, turn that off. So on F2, I can enable a debug drawing of all the physics, the simulated physics, the dynamic physics, and F3 will give me the rendering of any static or kinematic objects. So you can see the buildings and the terrain and so on. Okay, where are we? Oh yeah, and we've got sorry, we've got collisions as well. I've forgotten. So here we got collisions being drawn. Okay. What else have we got? You can see there's quite a lot. Okay, so I guess one thing it's hard to sort of really show, but we have the propeller is running through a sort of semi-realistic calculation. So it generates the force using proper like propeller equations, and it also generates a propeller wash, so a kind of slipstream. So the propeller, as it blasts air backwards, that will go over the control surfaces, and that region then expands out in a kind of cone, and as it expands, it gets less effective and so on. And that's really important for like 3D aerobatic planes. So this plane here, I'm just going to change the skybox. It's a bit annoying. Okay, so this is the kind of my attempt to try and get a kind of 3D fully super aerobatic plane. Unfortunately, you can't see the control surfaces move, but it has like huge control surface movement. And so just reset the camera. And actually, I'm going to switch to the ground view. Okay. So with the big control surfaces, then as the whoops, I might have kind of broken the setup, but you can it needs more work, but it's kind of getting to the point where you can fly around in what's called a Harrier, where the wing is sort of stalled, but it still has control, and use the propeller wash to essentially retain control over the plane. So yeah, I just didn't have time to kind of get it all working nicely, but it's it's kind of like it's kind of ready to be worked on as well. Let's just get back to another aircraft. I'll go for I also put in a powered glider. That's a bit ugly. So in this one here, it's kind of quite big. So it kind of glides much more gracefully and efficiently than the small planes. And another thing that will happen is that a spinning. So I'm going to change now to the trainer. So another thing about the propeller is that when the propeller's stationary, it doesn't actually exert very much drag. Obviously, when the propeller's spinning fast, it exerts a lot of force through thrust. But actually, if you fly around, what's it? That one here. Okay, so I'm going to get a bit of height. So I'm going to go up high, and then I'm going to shut the engine off, and you'll see the propeller stop. So I think the propeller's stopped now. Yeah, it's just outside. As I dive, the propeller will start to turn, and then it will spin just through the wind going over the propeller. And actually, as it spins, it creates this kind of windmilling effect where it actually adds a lot of drag. So now there's a lot of... So when the propeller's not really spinning, there's not much drag, and it kind of glides okay. But if the propeller spins slowly, it actually generates a lot of drag. So that's kind of quite an interesting effect. Okay, let's go back. Okay, actually, let's go and start the fun things. So we also have now, I wanted to be able to test, you can hear the audio, it's a bit whiny or whatever, but there's a motor sound, there's kind of wind sound, and that's going through 3D audio. So I wanted to test that, so whatever. I thought I'd make some AI-powered aircraft. So so Claude, basically it did a big change, it generated like 50 files, where it generated a system for abstracting out the control of the aircraft so that we can then create multiple aircraft and then have AI controllers. So we're going to spawn an AI aircraft, and let's create ourselves like the power glider, right? And there are various sort of goals that it can follow. It can hold a position, it can follow the player, or it can follow a waypoint circuit. So on the first one, I'm going to follow hold position. Yeah. And ignore this one. We're going to switch the camera to the glider. So we can now switch between the targets for the camera. And we can enable the debug draw for the kind of AI goals. So the goal of this glider is to climb up to reach height, and then it's going to basically follow and go around in a circle, because that's it's going to be holding its position, just like circling over a particular location. So you can see there it goes. And so it controls the throttle and the banking and all the rest of it. The parameters on these are not like fully tuned and all the rest of it, so sometimes you'll probably see that you can get a little bit twitchy, but it basically works. Okay. We can also create some other things. So let's create ourselves a sport plane, and this time we're going to follow a waypoint circuit. Okay, and in the scenery file, let's just show that. So in the scenery file, we're in undulating terrain at the moment, we can specify waypoints in the scene. So with a name, so it's going to read this. You can put anything you like in here. So we've got 3 different types of waypoint track, and we can choose which one to select. So let's select the figure 8 pattern, and we're going to switch plane. Yeah, sometimes it has a bit of trouble getting off the ground, but okay, let's go. Oh, come on. Oh dear. Okay, we're gonna make it. It will calm down in a moment. Okay. Right. Okay, stop oscillating. Okay, so as you can see, it's following the waypoint. Yeah, this one is a little bit kind of twitchy, and the waypoints are relative to the terrain, so go up and down. Currently, it doesn't know anything about these buildings, so every so often it will hit one, and if we're lucky, it will land upside down, and that will cause it to reset. And if we're unlucky, or if we're super lucky, it won't even hit the ground. It will recover. Yeah. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So actually, we can make more of these things. So we can make basic trainer, and that and that can follow the same waypoint or a different one. We can also try. I haven't tried this here. The racetrack. Let's just get to it. Which is a very low altitude circuit. It's probably going to crash into things. and it requests a high speed. Yeah, right. Okay, it's kind of struggling this, but you can also delete. You can manage the set of planes. So this is the trainer. It's not kind of really working for us. We can delete the glider, and then we're just left with the sport. And that's our own plane. So this is the wiggle sport. Okay, so let's load up. Let's load up a training field with buildings, and now we're going to add in. We're going to spawn. We're going to spawn that one, and we're going to do a racetrack, and then we're going to spawn that one again, and we'll do another racetrack. You know, so we can have a couple of planes up there. They're going to like shoot around the racetrack. Okay, and let's go up and see if we can catch them up. Actually, change ourselves to be a sport plane too. So, oh yeah, okay, so it goes a little bit. That's not really going to work, is it? I thought it was a smaller racetrack than that. I'm not sure any planes are actually going to make it out of the other side of this one. What I wanted to show, okay, I'm going to just do the plane, right, yeah, that's something. Okay, I'm going to do this one again. Sport plane, waypoint circuit, racetrack. And I don't know if you can hear, I know the audio is probably not terribly loud, but if you've got headphones on, you actually hear there's kind of 3D sound, so we'll be able to hear the other plane. And if I could catch up with it, we could crash into it and bump it and stuff. Okay, so the final AI thing is we're going to make ourselves a trainer. We're going to do the follow player. Actually, we're going to change our own aircraft to be basic trainer, and we're going to get rid of the racetrack. Right. Okay. So now we have. Let's just turn around. So we have behind us, we have this target pink. Let's just get a bit of height. And which is not that one. I'm trying to look behind. There we are. So you can see we're getting chased by this other plane. It's going to try to reach that that kind of the target thing. Just going to switch to controlling with the keyboard for the moment, and then we can add in others. So if we add in another one, then it's going to find its own. So it's going to add progressively into the other formation slots. Of course, these guys are going to start off from the ground. So, okay, so you can see the grey lines. They're all going to be trying to pick us up, catch us up. So let's just kind of get a little bit closer to them, give them a fighting chance. There we go. They're going to start to join us. Join behind. So they don't always do a very good job of actually. What do I want to do? They don't always do a great job of actually. Getting a bit low. Tracking, but you know, they're kind of doing their best. You can see their nice shadows on the ground. It's kind of quite cool. Yeah, and you can imagine with a little bit of work, we get the AI tracking working a bit better, and it'd be quite cool. I have no idea if that's everything. It's kind of quite a lot. Yeah, and so as I say, the code base is now 19,000 lines of code, and Claude is still working with it. I think it's got a little bit slower than initially. We're now into probably 2.5 to 3 full working days. Some of these steps have been a bit slow, by computer standards. For example, the adding of the AI system. It took. I don't know. I wasn't really watching it. I wasn't really kind of counting, but it was maybe 15 to 20 minutes to do a first go, and then needed further refinement. So some of that is not terribly, it's not instantaneous. Certainly, actually, I was playing Fortnite whilst that was happening. I'd sort of have a little game, then when that's finished, checking how it's going and all the rest of it. And then the second thing to add is that it doesn't feel like vibe coding, right? So what I mean by that is that I'm keeping quite hands-on with the code that's produced. Sometimes I can't keep track of all of it because there's so much being made so fast. But for the important bits of code, I really do look at it, and a lot of the bugs, because it's not going to get everything right first go, and a lot of the bugs, or some of the bugs, I've really investigated quite hard myself. I have a piece of paper here with scribblings and to do the maths and the physics and whatever. I mean, quite often it gets things right, and then sometimes it's just kind of not. So anyway, yeah. So this has been pretty interesting. I think it's done pretty well, to be honest. Okay.